Deja vu. Here we are all over again, live on 104.5 The Zone and A to Z Sports live streaming platforms. I'm Lucas Panzica. He is Alex Daugherty as the Preds get it done. Once again, this time, not Matt Duchene, but Luke Cunnin, and the Preds win it 4-3 in double overtime to even up the series 2-2. Lucas Panzica for The Zone. Alex Daugherty, A to Z Sports. Alex, here we are again, 48 hours later. It feels like deja vu.
Well, okay, so on Friday we had the second longest playoff overtime game in Preds history, and today that record got broken again. So now we have again the second longest playoff overtime game in Preds history. Luke Cunnin ends it on a brilliant pass by Calle Yarncroke, and I got to tell you, I did not think this was going to happen based on how they were playing in the second period. I'm sitting here talking to my my teammate next to me, Sean Smith, with On the Forecheck, about how slow the Predators looked in that second overtime. The first overtime, they were flying. They had chances all over the place. Nedeljkovic was denying them. But in the second overtime, they looked extremely slow. I don't know if you're still on with me because my signal's pretty bad, but I can see you, so I'm going to keep going.
We got you, man.
Okay, all right, good. Man, they came out in the second period. I mean, I don't want to say they were flat-footed, but they looked dead. I mean, they could not get anything in transition. They could not get their game going offensively. The Carolina Hurricanes were all over their zone. UC Saros had a number of saves, but it was more about the Predators not being able to do anything. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Calle Yarncroke corrals a puck in the corner, finds a streaking Luke Cunnin who just came off the bench, I think, and sends it by Nedeljkovic. So really an incredible win. Tim Barber said it right. They were exhausted. I mean, totally exhausted in that second overtime. That was something to watch.
And Brooke Parsons says, what a difference home ice made for the Preds. Complete team win. And absolutely right. It was a rocking atmosphere in Bridgestone Arena, just like it was on Friday. And it felt like that was the one thing needed to push this team over the top late in a double overtime. Alex, 10 periods over the course of a single weekend is insane. It's absolute insanity. No human is meant to be subjected to the kind of physical torture that those players, both on the Preds and Canes, went through here for games 3 and 4. But the Preds get it done on home ice and even up the series 2-2 as we welcome people in, viewers streaming in on 104.5 The Zone's Twitter and Twitch, A to Z Sports, Facebook, and YouTube. Alex Daugherty with me. I'm Lucas Panzica. Brandon says, we got it, but we won. Let's take this on to Game 5. Tim Barber says, Saros the king. Alex Daugherty, UC Saros. What an incredible performance today. Now, I will say, both goalies really just the most eye-popping performances on both sides that we've seen throughout this whole series. Nedeljkovic was incredible, but UC Saros keeping this team in it. He's the great equalizer, right? He was the X factor for you in pregame, and that's exactly how it played out.
He had 110 saves in game 3 and 4 combined. That is unbelievable, truly. I mean, I don't have ever seen two performances back-to-back. Now, in this one, he set the record again that he just set on Friday for franchise
58 saves.
58 saves, 52 on Friday. That guy was everything for the Predators, especially, like I said, in that second overtime. I kept looking up and just waiting for Carolina to score because of how dead the Predators looked. I mean, they just couldn't get anything going. But if you go back earlier in the game, the Predators had the advantage several times, and the Carolina kept pushing back. They score a minute in. Luke Cunnin, who started it and finished it. Luke Cunnin gets the goal first, the first goal. The Carolina Hurricanes tie it up. Ryan Johansson gets a big goal as well. Nick Cousins with the late power play tying goal, which was a nice tip. And then you saw exactly what we saw at the end of the third period, and then going into overtime. The Predators were, look, the Predators have not been a speed team all year long. They have been a quality team, like in terms of getting shot quality, but they've not been really moving through the neutral zone like we saw tonight. They had so much speed going in that third period and first overtime that you really thought they were going to end it there. So that's why I thought it was over in the second overtime. They just looked dead, but Luke Cunnin pulls it out.
Going to the start of the game, Alex, to me, I thought the Predators were shot out of a cannon right out the gate after the opening faceoff. Obviously, the goal to start things less than a minute. forgetting who scored for the Preds with that open take the 1-0 lead. But it felt like a carryover from double overtime on Friday into the first period. Things evened out a bit at several points throughout the game. Carolina had doubled up the Preds in shots. But what was the key to weathering the Carolina storm, Alex? Was it the defenseman and the play of Ryan Ellis, Alex Carrier, who you've been very complimentary of in this series, Roman Josi? What was the great equalizer when Carolina was consistently out shooting Nashville?
Okay, I actually have something for you here, because it's something that I noticed in the second overtime. All right, so if you back up a second, Roman Josi's your best defenseman. Matthias Ekholm has had a great season and a great playoffs. Ryan Ellis is right there. But they had a lot of balance in terms of who they were sitting over the boards on their defense. The fact that they were able to find guys like Alex Carrier, Matt Benning, even Ben Harper played a great game tonight. Those guys got a ton of minutes. And yeah, Austin's pointing out my hair looks stressed. I just threw the headset on because Luke Cunnin blew us away over here. Same thing happened in game 3, I think. Yeah, so the balance, the defensive balance. If you look at Carolina's balance, not quite as balanced. Now, they're still missing their top defenseman. Well, one of their top defensemen is Jacob Slavin. But Brett Pesce had to play like 40 minutes tonight. Roman Josi still only played, 38, 37, something like that? He played 34. 33 minutes throughout the whole game. Like, that's good balance. And they needed that because of, again, they just did this 2 days ago. So a defensive balance was a really big key tonight.
Yeah, and a key in the depth lasting throughout the overtime periods. You tweeted this out, actually, in that second overtime. So I want to ask you, how common is that? Is that something the Predators have done throughout the season? I know you went back to Peter Laviolette, said a guy like Roman Josi would be on the ice for 40-plus minutes if that was the case. But how common is that? What kind of tactical move is that by John Hines to ensure that kind of stamina is able to be in a consistent manner throughout the overtimes?
Yeah, it's not very common. I mean, if you go back and look at, I did talk about Laviolette. If you go back, Dan Hamhuis, Yannick Weber, those guys were getting like 10 to 15 minutes in a playoff game. They leaned on Roman Josi heavy, and it saved him. It saved them for being able to play good minutes in the second overtime. If they hopefully they don't go to another overtime situation on Tuesday, which is now game 5, with the Preds having a chance to go ahead in the series. I mean, which is something we didn't think was possible. It's not very common to see that much balance on your defense. Your third pairing is normally the one you try to avoid in the playoffs. You try to protect them, not give them so many starts or so many minutes. But man, that was a big part of it. The other thing, forward balance. I mean, the fourth line, great minutes tonight. Matthew Olivier stepping in there, Tanner Jeannot sitting. Obviously, the Cunnin Yarncrook line was fantastic. The top line, Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson. I mean, how many times did you look up and you saw Matt Duchene do something that you've been waiting to see for 2 years now? I mean, he could have ended the game a couple times in overtime if it wasn't for Nedeljkovic. So look at Cody. Cody's in here telling everybody he said Preds in 6. Guess who else said Preds in 6? This guy right here.
I can attest to this. Yes, this is true. Alex Daugherty predicted Preds in 6. They are now level 2-2 after a 4-3. Another double overtime thriller. This time, it's Luke Cunnin with the game winner. Lucas Panzica, Alex Daugherty will have to leave shortly with post-game media availability. Alex, whenever that comes around, feel free to just and we'll hang out with everybody in the chat reacting to the Preds tying the series up 2-2, going back to Carolina. Live on 104.5 The Zone's Twitter and Twitch. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got to run. It's coming on now. Thanks, guys.
All right, Alex Daugherty, appreciate you, man. Of A to Z Sports, covers the Preds, does great work. Check out what Alex will have for you post-game as the Preds win it 4-3 late in double overtime. First time in Predators history go back-to-back in the playoffs with double overtime games. They've done it before in the same series. Think back a few years ago when they won in overtime and then in triple overtime against the Blackhawks. First time to go back-to-back double overtime. Philip Anderson says, I don't see Carolina losing 4 in a row. It's a good point, Philip. Now tied 2-2. It's essentially a best-of-3 series moving forward, and they do have to go back to Carolina, which from games 1 and 2 was a rock atmosphere. But I think Bridgestone Arena really pushed it over the top here as the Preds scratch and claw their way to another double overtime win. The 9 line, 92, 95, and 9. The very aptly named 9 line. I saw Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports tweet this with a little hat tip to Emily Proud of News 2 for coming up with that name, the 9 line. So he put out a poll between the 9 line and the Cloud 9 line, which was made up by my teammate at 104.5 The Zone, Jason Martin. I think I'm going to go with the 9 line, Tim Barber. I like that. The 9 line have made a huge difference for the Preds through games 3 and 4. Matt Duchene was a totally different player, both on Friday and today, but today it felt more consistent. It was throughout the game. And one thing that Alex pointed out to me after the game on Friday, Matt Duchene had to earn his minutes on that line for the Preds. He had to earn his minutes on the power play for the Preds. He was not part of the power play unit on Friday after his performance, giving the game-winning goal in double overtime. He was today, and he made a big difference. Philip Anderson says this likely gets to 7 games now. I could easily see that getting to 7 games. Karen O'Keefe says now the perfect day for when Nashville SC wins as well. It is a Nashville sports doubleheader as Nashville SC hosts Austin tonight, and the Nashville Predators tie the series 2-2. One key stat to look at for the Preds, we've talked a lot about the power play. Actually, a power play goal here today, but it's the penalty kill that has made a huge difference for Nashville. For everything that we have talked about with the Preds power play, and rightfully so, it has just not been good. 2 of 19, that's 12% lower, 5 percentage points lower than what the Preds had throughout the regular season at 17%. 2 of 19 on the power play, not good enough, but the penalty kill, that's what has kept the Preds in this series. The Hurricanes, 2 of 14 on the power play through games 1 through 4. And look, Carolina team that was a top 3 team on the power play throughout the course of the season. They were number 2 in the NHL at the end of the regular season in power play conversion rate. And the Preds have really grabbed that as an equalizer here to try and offset a lot of deficiencies against the Hurricanes going in. Not just UC Soros, but the penalty kill has made just as big a difference for the Nashville Predators. Tim Barber said, Taylor Lewan, man, absolutely. Taylor Lewan made a huge difference hyping up that crowd in Bridgestone Arena. You saw it on the telecast on social media. Great to see Titans offensive linemen back in the arena getting the crowd jacked up. Philip Anderson, I would like to see Predators win in 6 games, but Carolina did not get the 1 seed for no reason. And you're absolutely right. Alex Daugherty pointed out, yes, he predicted Preds in 6 before the series. I can attest to that. It'd be very hard to imagine the Preds going back to Carolina after they force a game 5 on Friday and pulling that one out, making it 3 in a row. But look, this series has been, these last 2 games have felt so evenly matched. Despite Carolina outshooting the Predators, especially today, there's been thing equaling that to use the penalty kill like we've kind of gone over here. But again, the focus has to be right now on Matt Duchene and this line, the adjustment that John Hines made to pair Matt Duchene with Ryan Johansson and Philip Forsberg on the number 1 line has made all the difference for the Preds in this series. That's the reason that we are at 2-2 here. Alex Daugherty talked about it ad nauseum in the lead up to the series, looking for playoff Matt Duchene, a guy that statistically throughout his career has had an uptick in production in the postseason. We didn't really see it in game 1. We didn't quite see it in game 2, but in game 3 and 4, especially game 4, which is just concluded here, Matt Duchene is the ultimate difference, I think, for the Preds. He was one of the best players on the ice, outside, of course, of UC Soros. Brooke Pearson says, let's get our Titans O-line out to Carolina for game. But not surprised if the Preds had to make a concerted effort to get Taylor Lewan and his teammates out to Raleigh, North Carolina, game 5. As the Preds take it 4-3 in double overtime. Karen O'Keefe says, got to give John Hines kudos. Absolutely right. Look, we've given John Hines credit throughout the season for getting the Preds to this point in the first place, for the turnaround that really, at its base level, besides UC Soros playing like the best goalie in NHL, look, it was the attitude change on that 8-game road trip in March where John Hines, there was a great report by Adam Vingan that said John Hines sat down with all of his forwards and was just looking at effort level throughout the games, effort level of tracking back on the back check and saying, how can we be successful when this is what we're getting from guys like Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson? And the team responded, and they've responded after going down 0-2 in the series. Think of it like a microcosm of the regular season right now for the Preds. A rough start where, quite honestly, they looked outclassed like they did throughout the first half of the regular season. And then what happened on Friday with the double overtime win at home to pull one back in the series and make it 2-1 is the equivalent of what happened in mid-March in that season turnaround for the Predators, and it's carried over here into Sunday. Philip Anderson says, now I hope the momentum goes from the Preds to the Grizzlies tonight. Yes, the Grizzlies, big game tonight, game 1 in the NBA playoffs against the Utah Jazz. Brent Daugherty, great to see you, Brent. Appreciate everybody joining us. 104.5 The Zone, live on Twitter and Twitch. A to Z Sports, live on YouTube and Facebook for Preds pre and post-game coverage. Catch the pre-game coverage every game with Will Bowling and Alex Daugherty, and I've got post-game with Alex, who, of course, had to go because of media availability. But one thing Alex talked about with Will Bowling that I watched the pregame coverage earlier today is Will asked him for an X factor, and they both gave theirs. Will gave his, saying it was Matt Duchene. Alex gave his, saying it was UC Saros. Both were right. Both were absolutely right, and both made the difference for the Preds in this matchup. I'll throw out another one. And we saw 2017 playoffs Ryan Johansson, who's on it for getting injured in the same year of the Cup run when the Preds won 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Ryan Johansson, when he scored that goal in the second period, I believe to give the Preds a 2-1 lead, that was vintage Ryan Johansson, winning the puck on the boards, essentially throwing a punch to win that puck and forcing it into the crease and into the back of the net against Nedeljkovic, who did not let anything come easy today. Ryan Johansson was just as important to this Preds win as anybody on the ice. But, of course, Matt Duchene takes the headlines. No, he did not score tonight like he did on Friday, but he was a constant threat, almost had a glorious spinning backhand overtime winner that would have pushed the Preds over the top. But it's Luke Cunnin later on in the game, less than 5 minutes ago, as the Preds take it in 4. It is a 2-2 series. So Alex Daugherty, just to rehash, if anybody missed when he came on, he talked about line. As I look at it, Yakov Trenin, Colton Sissons, and Matthew Olivier. Olivier, the guy in for Tanner Jeannot, who is out of the lineup, and the herd line makes a big difference today. Justin Briley says we got to seal the next game in regulation. Back-to-back double OTs is not going to win this series. I agree with you there on Justin. Double overtime wins are not sustainable, but that goes for the Carolina Hurricanes too. They're going to go back home pissed off. And look, I'll be surprised if one of these games goes back to overtime in Carolina, just for law of averages. I mean, I didn't think, like a lot of you, I'm going to the soccer game tonight in Nissan Stadium. I did not anticipate that this game would go to another double overtime, and I'd be sitting here at 6 p.m. talking to all of you. I thought we'd be done, wrapped up by 4:30, 5 o'clock at the latest. But listen, I couldn't be happier to be here. Appreciate everybody's involvement on 104.5 The Zone and A to Z Sports. Jennifer says, unbelievable. Love that these guys never give up. That's been, that's been a key for this team all season long, with the turnaround mid-season and now coming back to even the series 2-2. Still a lot of work to be done as the Preds officially force a Game 6. They will be back in Carolina, I believe, on Tuesday as the Carolina Hurricanes just try to take back control of this series. Look, they're going to be going back home with confidence shot. This is a team that looked head and shoulders better than the Predators, especially in Game 1. These are two teams that did not look like they belonged on the same ice in the third period of that Game 1 that Carolina won 5-2. But the Preds, with a better performance in Game 2, just, again, 0 for 7 on the power play, atrocities on special teams that could not get the job done. But again, I'll reiterate this point. As bad as the Predators' power play has been, and it's been bad, better today. John Hines talked about this in his pregame press conference, saying, quote, they're looking for better break-ins, speed, understanding where the pressure is coming from to find their release points. That was the key for John Hines on the power play leading into Game 3, doing a better job of finding the release points and even just to get shots off. I mean, the Preds were 0 for, we know, in the power play on Wednesday. They had 2 combined shots. Let's go back to last Monday in Game 1. 0 for 3 on the power play, 2 combined shots. That doesn't get the job done. They score a power play goal on Friday with the 5-on-3, and they score another one today. But look, the key has been the penalty kill for the Nashville Predators. I said it earlier in the stream, and I'm saying it again. The Canes are right there with the Preds in terms of power play percentage at 14%. Nashville is at a 12% clip in this series on the power play. The Carolina Hurricanes are converting at a 14% clip. As much criticism we're going to Nashville Predators play, and it deserves every bit of it, make sure you turn around and you're able to give that praise as well to the penalty kill, because I realized the Preds penalty kill took a big jump through the back half of the season. It was terrible through the first couple of months of the campaign, but in those last 2.5 months or so where you saw that turnaround to push for the postseason, the Preds were tied for the 7th best penalty kill in the NHL. Well, they've looked like one of the best penalty kills in the NHL, period, throughout this series. And they're doing it against the team that finished second in the NHL during the regular season in power play conversion percentage. Justin Revel says the puck control for the last 2 games has been a night and day difference. Look, I was one of the ones going in that said the Nashville Predators cannot skate with the Carolina Hurricanes. They cannot score with the Carolina Hurricanes. The difference has to be the physicality and the goaltending. Well, one of those certainly held true. The goaltending in these last 2 games, UC Saros, especially today, was remarkable. Career high, 58 saves. He breaks his own record, single game record for the Predators. But for a team that, when you look at the numbers, were outshot 61-43, it felt like a very evenly matched game. And even in the second overtime, the Preds outshoot the Hurricanes 11-7 first, and we're out 10-6 in the second OT. But UC Saros, the ultimate equalizer, as Michael Brown says, 2 OTs might be good. Wear them out more, LOL. Yeah, Michael, but that works both sides. And when you go back to Carolina and they have the home ice and they have the crowd behind them, overtime certainly, I think, favors the home team, especially when you've gone back-to-back games playing 5 periods of hockey. I mean, and look, they almost played the entire period on Friday. That came 5 minutes left, and then less than 5 minutes left with Luke Cunnin giving the Preds the winner here. So exhaustion is absolutely a factor, and the crowd is absolutely a factor. In overtime, maybe one of the things that allows these guys to dig deep and find that final effort that will push them over the top and win them the game, that's going to work in Carolina too, because that crowd was also rocking. They also have over 12,000 fans in the arena, but there is no question Bridgestone Arena was a huge difference maker for the Preds in games 3 and 4. The largest crowd in an NHL hockey game all season was in Bridgestone Arena on Friday, and it was replicated on Sunday as the Preds win it 4-3. Luke Cunnin with the game-winning goal as the stars of the game have come out. Cunnin at the top forward for the Hurricanes, had 2 fantastic goals today, and then UC Saros, a career high 58 saves as the Nashers get it done. Appreciate all of you for hanging out with us here. Jennifer says, unbelievable. Love these guys. Never give up. Inner Sloth says, go Preds. Tim Barber says, Ryjo is in playoff form now, looking good. He absolutely is, right there with Matt Duchene. And John Hines said it after the game on Friday. This cannot be a one-off in terms of the play of that first line that he adjusted to put Forsberg along with Johansson and now Matt Duchene. Victor Arvidsson out of the lineup. At this point, I will be shocked if Victor Arvidsson comes back into the lineup. But that line made a huge difference Friday, and you could an even better difference with a better performance today. Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene. The level of play those guys have exhibited through games 3 and 4 has to stay right there. It cannot dip, or else the Preds will lose that advantage. You've seen it, that the Preds have just had to scratch and claw their way to wins in 3 and 4, in games 3 and 4 with the double overtime, with both double overtimes. And again, that's because of the play of Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson. If that dips, the Preds are going to have a hard time staying in this series. Jennifer McCullough says, I love the Forsberg-Johansson line. Absolutely. And Matt Duchene playing just as key a role in that as ever today. And look, we talked about it with Alex Daugherty, the defenseman in this game. As you look at the pairings, it was Roman Josi along with Alex Carrier, who has had an incredible postseason, as Daugherty has pointed out several times. Matthias Ekholm, I think, has also had a very solid series from games 1 to 4. He was paired with Ryan Ellis and then Ben Harper along with Benning on that third line defensively. Look, the ice time was allocated very smartly by John Hines in game 4. I think a big reason why the Preds were able to stay fresh in terms of their defensemen, keep things in front of them. As I pull up the numbers for this game, the Preds outblocked Hurricanes 31-15. That's doubled up on blocks, 31-15, which means getting in front of pucks and shutting down shots before they're able to make their way to the net. And UC Saros, where, of course, had 50 saves. Barber says, agreed, have to keep this intensity consistent. And again, that's going to fall on that top line of Forsberg, Duchene, and Ryan Johansson. So the Preds get it done, 4-3, the final score. Winning in Bridgestone Arena in front of a rocking crowd. Appreciate all of you for hanging out with us this afternoon. Appreciate Alex Daugherty of A to Z. Justin Rose says the physical play, I believe you're trying to say unmatched. You're absolutely right. Carolina does out-hit the Preds 33-32, but look, these teams shut up ready. And like I said off the top, I thought the Preds were shot out of a cannon right out the gate in this first period. Luke Cunnin bookmarks this game with the first and final game-winning goal of the matchup. But he scores 57 seconds in. Felt like the Preds picked up right where they left off in double overtime on Friday, at least right out the gate. Jennifer says, I'm hoping Grimaldi and RV see the lineup We need the speed. Look, Jennifer, I see what you're saying, but with Victor Arvidsson, we've seen it in games 1 and 2, and it just wasn't good enough from Arvidsson. And with the difference in play from that top line that we saw with Duchesne stepping from the third line to the first line, replacing Victor Arvidsson, who, by the way, is day-to-day with a lower body injury, I have a very hard time seeing Victor Arvidsson in this. You certainly could have made an argument for Rocco Grimaldi earlier in the series, but at this point, what the Preds have right now is working. It's working. And one thing we haven't pointed out is the Cousins, Haula, Yarncrow. That third line, I think, also made a big difference today. Calle Yarncrow, a guy who was tied to lead the Preds in the regular season in goals scored. That line's going to be just as important, but that top line, Jennifer, you talk about wanting to see Arvy back. I would not expect that to happen for the remainder of this series if Duchesne keeps playing the way he is. And Eeli Tolvanen, I think, has found a home on that second line with Mikael Granlund and Luke Kunin, who puts out a huge performance today with the first and final goals of the matchup. All of you for hanging with us on this Sunday afternoon. It is a Nashville sports doubleheader as Nashville SC gets ready to host Austin FC later on. The Preds get it done. A 2-2 series as the Nashville Predators win 4-3. Luke Kunin with 2 goals. The game winner with less than 5 minutes to go in the second overtime. First time in franchise history that the Preds go back-to-back double overtime in the same series. Appreciate all of you for joining us. Appreciate Alex Daugherty hanging out he has for media availability as the Preds tie up the series 2-2. It is back to Carolina for Game 5. All pre- and post-game coverage for you right here on 104.5 The Zone and A to Z Sports live streams. But until then, thank you so much for listening, and join us tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone and A to Z Sports for Preds post-game and pre-game coverage throughout the entirety of this series. Have a good night.